Welcome to China University. This is Chimsy, your student advisor. In this podcast, I will not only talk about the many professional, academic, and personal growth opportunities this country has to offer, but also I'll mention some of the major obstacles foreign students encounter while living in China. I'll share my experience, thoughts, and opinions along with some honest advice and genuine encouragement. In last week's episode, I talked about feeling lonely in China, and to my surprise, I received many messages from listeners who could relate to the topic and wanted to encourage me to keep making more episodes. And all I have to say is that I couldn't be more happy about it, and I have to thank you all for your support. If you have any topic ideas or suggestions, please feel free to send an email to chinapodcast@outlook.com or find me on Instagram and Facebook as China University Podcast. In the bio, you can find the link to stream and download my episodes. But I want to remind you that you can find me on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcast as China University Student Advisor. Remember to subscribe and turn your alerts to receive push notifications whenever I release my weekly episodes. Anyway, welcome to episode number 2. Today we're going to talk about feeling lost in China. But before I start, I want to let you know that I will start talking about feeling lost in general, and then I'll move to when and why is it that we might start feeling lost in life and in China. Would you agree with me if I tell you that it's easier to know where you're going when you have a name for your destination? For example, when you were little, you kind of knew that you'd be in school for a while, and all you had to do was to study hard, wait for the end of the year, and start all over again the next year. You knew that after first grade, you'll go to second grade, third grade, and so on. After primary school, you knew you'd go to a place called high school, and after high school, you'd go to a place called college. That made sense for you, your family, and friends for about 11 or 12 years. And one of the less obvious reasons it made sense for all those years is because everyone around you were doing the exact same thing. You'd see your friends in school, go home, come back to classes the next day. But once you graduate high school, you and your classmates split ways. From those who made it through, some will attend college, some will start working, some will go to work and study at the same time. And what becomes clear at this point is that after high school, you are kind of on your own. Even though your parents might have a say on what you can and cannot do, you'll have to start making many decisions on your own. You, the one who a few months ago had to ask for permission to go to the bathroom during class, has now the responsibility of making life choices such as choosing a major, choosing a career, or choosing a job. Now, it's harder to predict where your decisions will lead you to. The results of every major decision you make will become more and more noticeable year after year. So you probably wonder, why am I talking about decisions? Well, because we are driven beings, and decisions drive you around different paths in life. During my last college semester, a friend of mine expressed to me how tempting it was for students in China to extend their studies as much as possible. Because according to him, no matter where you come from, being in college will always make sense for most people. Whenever friends or family members ask you about your life, you can spend almost a decade or more saying, "I'm in college." And it will make sense for most people, and he thought that the reason this works is because you can protect your image, and also you don't have to explain to potential employers any major gaps on your resume. And this kind of sucks. It sucks that we live in such an invalidating society that expects us to have everything figured out at all times. And the problem with this is that we can fall victims of our own societal expectations sometimes. No matter what is it that you're doing, studying or working in China, chances are that at some point or another, it will stop making sense for you. Now, have you ever been lost in China? Or more specifically, did you ever get lost in the streets of China? Probably yes, but I bet it wasn't a big deal. Because even though you were lost, you knew exactly where you wanted to be. You had the name for your destination, and you ended up figuring out your way home. And everyone around you seems to know where they're going, but not you. All you know is that you're lost and you have no destination. The difference here is that you know exactly where you live. You know exactly where you are. You are in China. But you're not sure about your destination. You don't know where China is going to take you. Friends and family will start getting what for you seems like amazing jobs, making solid money, buying houses, buying cars, getting married, having children, traveling around the world, and whatnot. And when you see other people's path in life, you will inevitably compare your life with other people's life. And since we're not in high school anymore, we don't do the same things every day. We make different decisions that lead us to different places in life. But naturally, if your life doesn't meet your own expectations, looking at other people's milestones and achievements can sometimes make you feel a little unsure about your own path. You will have questions such as, what am I studying for exactly? What am I working towards in life? Am I going to stay in China forever? What's next for me? Where am I going? And I think that these are perfectly valid questions, but rather than looking for an answer, these questions should lead you towards planning your next move, because those questions were the exact same questions I had back home, and it was because of those doubts that I decided to step out of my comfort zone and come to China to seek new answers. Do you remember the day you made the decision to come to China, or the day you knew you were coming to China? Because I do. I remember it was back in 2015, December the 31st, 2015 at around 11 p.m. I remember because another year had passed and I was feeling pretty lost back home and I wasn't sure about many aspects of my life. But there was something that I was sure about, and it was the fact that I wanted to learn Chinese. I also remember telling my parents that I was planning to go to China, but they thought I was being immature and trying to escape reality, or that I had finally snapped and lost my mind. And to a certain extent, they were right. I was escaping reality. But like Charles Bukowski wrote in his book, The Post Office, you can't blame a man for wanting to better himself. I interpret it as, you can't blame people for wanting something better for themselves or becoming a better version of themselves. And regarding my parents thinking that I was being too immature for wanting to come to China, I think that if you're immature and decide to come to China, it just means that you would run into countless opportunities to grow and improve yourself. And as a matter of fact, China will test your emotional intelligence and resilience almost on a daily basis, I'm telling you. And about being crazy for wanting to come to China, I think that being a bit crazy, it's a requirement to come to China, especially if by crazy you mean courageous and open-minded. I think my parents were ultimately trying to protect me and stop me from losing my way in life, but I think that at that time, they had no idea I was already feeling totally lost back home. But ever since I came here, my parents have been incredibly supportive and caring. Mom, Dad, thank you for caring about me, but also thank you for doubting me because it made me work even harder to get to where I am now. Anyway, enough about me. How about you? Were you feeling lost back home? Were you trying to escape from something or someone? Were you trying to escape your reality? Whatever the answer is, I just want to tell you that it's okay. People escape from all sorts of things all the time. People escape loneliness, prejudice, family issues, violence, poverty, danger, unemployment, you name it. But even if you come to China to seek new answers in your life and find yourself, you will still feel lost sometimes. So you might wonder, what can I do about it? Well, the answer is that there is no answer. At least not a definitive answer. Different things work for different people. But I will share with you what usually works for me. So let's start with the fact that feeling lost while studying or working in China will either keep you ruminating about your past decisions or worrying about your future. The past and the future are physically inaccessible. You can think about the past and have a thought of what might happen in the future, but thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. And what's a fact is that you will always live in the present, here and now. And the best thing you can do to regain some direction in life is to plan and create. My first honest advice is plan. Plan for your health, relationships, studies, career, and other goals. But remember that you can change your mind at any time, and you have the right to change your mind about the things that you want in life. You don't stick to every single decision you make because you're evolving and changing every day. What seemed to be a good idea 5 years ago might sound like an awful idea today, and vice versa. But another aspect to consider is that you should not only plan for the things that you want, but also for the things that you don't want. Plan for the healthy issues you want to treat. Plan for the relationships and friendships you no longer want. Plan to switch from a major or quit a major you no longer feel passionate about. Plan to quit unfulfilling jobs. Plan your days. Plan your weeks. Plan for the short term. Plan for the long term. The reality is that in China and in life, if you don't lead your days, the days will lead you. And you will be at the mercy of either monotony or uncertainty. But I can guarantee that when you start planning your days and weeks, your tasks, your goals, you will feel more in control of your life. You can start with the small things such as what time you wake up, what time you go to sleep, what you eat, when you eat, who you spend time with, where you go. But don't plan for things that are outside of your control. Because even though your planning might influence the outcomes of some events, if things don't go as planned, you might end up feeling disappointed or even more lost than before. For example, if you plan not to catch a cold this year, you will be disappointed the moment you get a sore throat and stuffy nose. But what you could plan instead is to exercise every day, eat healthy, and drink Chinese hot water so that if you eventually catch a cold, your body can recover faster. Or for instance, if you plan to get an A on your thesis final defense, but they end up giving you a B, you will feel as if your efforts and preparation were all in vain. So instead, you could plan to study and prepare for your thesis in advance so that you can get a relatively good score. Those are examples of how you can and cannot control certain things in your life, but at the same time, you can influence unpredictable outcomes with the small actions you take every day. In psychology, this is known as the locus of control. The internal locus refers to the things that you can control, and the external locus refers to the things you can't control. If you want to know more about the locus of control, I'll leave a link in the description of this episode. Now, my second honest advice here is create. Create blogs, books, business plans, paintings, pictures, songs, dances, journals, stories, videos, or podcasts. No matter what you create, but create something. Without a doubt, creative outlets will help you regain some sense of purpose. It will make you hungry for knowledge and awaken your ambitions. And also, it will help you relieve stress and anxiety. The best part of it is that your ideas and creations are portable. You can carry them anywhere you go and further develop them anywhere you want, either here in China or anywhere around the world. Before I wrap it up, I want to give you some genuine encouragement. Number one, if you feel lost in China, accept that it's okay to feel lost in China. It's not just you. It doesn't matter what you hear people are up to or how far ahead they seem to be in life or what you see on social media. Well, I don't think I need to remind you that what people post on social media is sometimes a misrepresentation of their actual lives. But anyway, chances are that people that you see or talk to every day are feeling just as lost as you are. Number two, realize that you have more control of your life than you think. Just give it a try. Start small. Plan your bedtime, plan your meals, and then move to bigger tasks. Number three, focus on your strengths and capabilities. Explore creative outlets and find out what is it that excites you the most and keeps you motivated. If you get bored, just try something different. Like it said before, you can change your mind, and you have the right to change your mind about the things you want in life. When you've been in China for a long time, it's easy to get stuck in a routine, and when every day feels the same or totally unpredictable, there's a big chance that you will feel directionless. If you think about it, Feeling lost is a great opportunity to learn new things and discover yourself. Just like the American author Neil Donald Walsh said, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Again, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. After the COVID pandemic started, mental health became less of a taboo. This helped normalize going to therapy. So if you think there might be some other underlying reasons why you're feeling lost, please consider seeking professional help. Alright, that's it for today. Next week, I'll talk about being broke in China. Yes, financial struggle, running out of money in China, because if you haven't been there yourself, you certainly know someone who's been there. If you have any topic ideas or suggestions, please feel free to send an email to chinapodcast@outlook.com or find me on Instagram and Facebook as China University Podcast. In the bio, you can find the link to stream and download my episodes. But I want to remind you that you can find me on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcast as China University Student Advisor. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week.